I would now like to get to our online tour. Our colleagues from Rijeka are already here. So we have an online tour, virtual tour of the exhibition Fiume Fantastika, Phenomena of the City, which is also presented by our supporter and partner Rijeka 2020, European Capital of Culture. For those who haven't been with us the first days, this is where we should have been with our real on-site conference. And I'm very happy that the organizers made it happen, that we can see some of the museums and some of the exhibitions, at least virtually. So the exhibition follows the last 150 years of Rijeka's urban history, during which the city experienced radical growth and became an important transport and industrial center. Colleagues in Rijeka, can you hear me? Try again.
Can you hear us now?
Ah, wonderful.
Obviously, but it's fine. You can hear us, right? Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Hi, we are here representing the University of Rijeka and the Rijeka 2020 project. Thank you very much for having us here. It's a pleasure being here with you. So obviously, as you said in the announcement and the introduction, Rijeka is the 2020 capital of culture, which is the probably the worst year to be a capital culture of. We've been trying to do most of the programs that we envisioned, at least most of the bigger ones, which are, I guess, more important to local and regional aspect of the whole project. Obviously, since a lot of the people who were meant to be here are either not allowed to travel or also have, difficulties in their work and everything. So we are here presenting the Fiume Fantastika Phenomena of the City exhibition, which is a pretty interesting story, not just because it's an exhibition, but also because the story of how we get there and why is it so important for even the place in which we are currently, which is not a typical museum. We'll get to that point a little bit later. But first, a small introduction on to why we are speaking in front of the university as well here. The Rijeka 2020 project, which was kind of confirmed in 2016, was envisioned and conceptualized in the sense that it has a lot of, I guess, a lot of partnerships with local organizations, but also some important institutions, which are museums and also the university itself. It's not always the case that the university is a strategic partner of the Capital Culture Project, since obviously it's more focused on education and research. But it was very important for us to have that aspect as well, because the history of Rijeka and also the many narratives that are present here are very important to kind of untangle and understand, because Rijeka is on a transition. The whole city has been, as you said also earlier, and sort of a industrial and transport hub. And so by losing that in the last couple of decades, we are obviously transitioning into some other, I guess, identity of the city, which has not been clear until yet. What is it? Is it going to be more culture tourism or more education type of city or some new industries? And so in order to kind of have these answers, it was very important for us through the whole project of Rijeka 2020 to kind of try to find these answers to, typical stuff like who we are, what are we doing here, what's our potential, and things like that. And so the university has a large role in that aspect because it obviously has a lot of resources at disposals that many cultural institutions do not. So we have access to students, to study programs, to various experts in various fields who were able to kind of give their contribution to the whole endeavor that we had in the last 4 years here. And so Morana and I have been working for the university, kind of coordinating these many experts and many artists as well, and many people and partners and institutions, not just in Croatia, but also abroad, to kind of try to see what our program, or at least our program, our part of the program is going to be. So we kind of concentrated on this sweet and salt area. It's called sweet and salt because there is it's a sort of a part of the city, a very central part, which has been the center for industry and the port as well, which is the largest in Croatia and also this part of the Adriatic. And so by losing its original kind of program, there is a lot of discussion of what to do with this space. And so we thought by using this cultural momentum to kind of see what the broader picture of the whole thing is. And so it's called Sweet and Salt because there is a river connecting to the sea in this part. And so we did many programs, which I'm not going to elaborate on at this moment. You can research everything, it's online, but we are going to focus here today is basically this warehouse, which is behind me. The exhibitions that we did and the Fiume Fantastika exhibition, which is currently here in this warehouse. And what's, I guess, is the future of, or the legacy of our 2-year work in this warehouse and on this exhibition. And so the idea was basically to research everything for 2 years to try to see what the history of the city is, but not just, using typical historical narratives, since once again, it's a very complex history, which we switched 7 or 8 regimes over the last 100 years. So it's a lot of switching borders, a lot of switching, I guess, different aesthetics or different sets, ideological narratives and things like that. And so we wanted to do a different reading of the city or of the city's past in order to get to this future part. And so we didn't want to do this exhibition in a museum. We wanted to do in the most difficult place where you can do an exhibition like this, which is a pretty big exhibition. So we decided to do it in the warehouse. So it's an old wood warehouse, which my colleague Morana is going to tell you again a little bit more just in a few moments. But I guess the point is not just to show by using various formats to show sort of a different reading of the city, but also there is this semi-hidden agenda of getting people into areas they were not able to access before, in order to show them that you can reprogram all these old warehouse, old factories, or old open areas in the city center, which can be used for the public and the people and the citizens. So that was kind of our goal. We didn't just do the research for the exhibition, we also did the production itself. And also there is this legacy aspect that we are going to do a book, which is going to be already it's a 600-page book, which is going to, I guess, tell the story a little bit more deeper about the whole teams and everything that we researched. And also we created a study program which will be able to kind of disseminate the knowledge and our experience over the last couple of years regarding this exhibition. So that's the introduction, I guess. So that's why the university is working with Rijeka 2020. That's why we did this exhibition, which we feel is very amazing in this very difficult place to do this. And so I will give my seat to Morana now, who is going to show you a presentation about how it looks like. So Morana.
Hi. First of all, thanks Renato for the introduction. And first of all, what we will do is we are going to walk through the exhibition through one short presentation with photos, and later on we are going to walk you through the exhibition, since we are inside, so you can get the sense of the space and the size of this space, because we are talking about 1,500 square meters just for the exhibition space, without the rest of the building and all the spaces for small size exhibitions. So welcome to Fiume Fantastika. Fiume Fantastika, wait. Let me just share my screen with you. So here we are. This is a photo of Rijeka from the air, and what you see here marked is actually the building of Export Drvo. I'm showing you this because right here, just across the canal, is the National Theatre. So we are talking about one space in the nearest center of Rijeka, that is Port Authority, that was Port Authority, and that is now a space for cultural and art events. What we also managed to do is move away the parking. So when you're today looking at this space, there is no parking anymore. This is a walking area for public. We managed to open one parking lot to general public. This is the Export Drvo building from the outside, and this was taken for the opening night. This was our idea. So when we started to plan, we drew this, and then we actually created all the elements of the exhibition. What you need to know that we are going to walk you through 10 different pavilions that are going to show different approaches in using material in architectural sense and in using archive materials for the exhibition. What we discovered during our research about Rijeka is that we can focus on 10 phenomena that are specific for Rijeka, but that are also specific for any other cities, such as infrastructure, common ground, monuments, the city itself. So we wanted to use all that information, all that phenomena on Rijeka as our case study. So what we did was separate each phenomena in one pavilion, which is a small size exhibition by itself. But in total, they make a little city that we created, that's Fiume Fantastika. We have also something that we like to call the 11th pavilion, which is not actually a pavilion, it's a timeline created from 52 flags that will tell you the story of the last 150 years of urban history of Rijeka. Since this part with pavilions is a phenomenologic part of the exhibition, focused on this phenomena. We wanted to keep this historical layer also present, which we did within the timeline. This was our team. As Renato said, the organizer was the University of Rijeka, which is actually a rare situation when the university becomes a strategic partner. Then, of course, Rijeka 2020 and the city of Rijeka. The chief curators were Idis Torato, Vedran Mimica, and Maro Mrduljaš, but the team was created also with Dejan Suđić, Lukas Kansi, Ida Križaj-Leko, Renato Stanković, and I. What we have to say that since we are university, we are not a museum, and we actually took a space that's not museum space. We had a lot of help from the different museums from Croatia. So we are talking about Maritime and Historical Museum of Croatian Littoral here in Rijeka, City Museum of Rijeka, Architectural Museum in Zagreb, Museum in Belgrade. They were actually really supportive and really gave us a lot of material that we had to research before the setup. The whole production was done by Delta Lab University of Rijeka, and our architect, the main architect, was Ida Križaj-Leko. And here we are. I'm sitting in the middle of the space on the other side, and but we are going to start from that way, and here we go. So on your left side is going to be on your right side, sorry, is going to be your first pavilion. What you also need to know that we are going to walk you through in some kind of my scenario. There is no right or wrong way in using this exhibition for as an audience. You can feel free to go left or right, from the end to the top, from top to the end. It's not important. Each pavilion is a theme by itself, a small size exhibition, and also can be walked through and walked around it. We actually create a small size urbanism with this type of setup. The first pavilion is called Port and Railway, since infrastructure is actually a really important element in developing each city, but it was specific for Rijeka because first you had the railway that created the port, and after the port, then the city was created. So we are starting with this pavilion, which is more focused on the historical approach and this type of generic architecture that was needed for such quick development of port city. Right opposite to it, it's the pavilion that we call Borders, which was done completely from metal scraps that we found at the shipyard, the Treći Maj here in Rijeka. And inside, we're talking about this historical element also, which was the border that was going through Rijeka for 17 years, right through the city. And what was really interesting to us is the difference in architecture in this left or right part of the city. We wanted to show this political and historical story part of history through architecture that is really different in this Fiume area and in Sušak area. After the Borders, the metal pavilion, we are going to containers. This pavilion, the green one, is focused on a theme called networks. So we are, what we wanted to show is a different transport of things, merchandise that was going through Rijeka or from Rijeka to all parts of the city or all parts of the world. And all those things actually really influenced the identity of Rijeka and the development of it, such as sugar, oil, container distribution, people emigrating to United States, and the ship Galeb, that was the yacht that Tito was using for his diplomatical travels. And as each city needs to have, we also build a cinema. So opposite the container, the Black Pavilion is actually a huge cinema where we are presenting one special artist film created by Igor Bezinović and Majda Srabović, especially for this exhibition. That is the film talking the story about the famous characters that either destroyed or built Rijeka, but nevertheless, all of them created its identity. This is the inside of our cinema. And on the right side, you can see the film. And just across the cinema, we are going to the pavilion called Palace. Palaces are also a very important element in the city development, but what we did was select 5 palaces from different times, from different years, but each palace is a symbol of different transgressions. We wanted to choose palaces that never changed their visual appearance. They always stayed the same. But what happened was the change of the program happening inside, such as one palace was built as a theater, then became the army house and was there for ages till the war. And then after the war, what happens is that one NGO takes over the building and creates beautiful contemporary art. We took those type of examples and presented them in this continuous exterior and continuous interior. So where you're walking around the pavilion, you're walking through one collage of these 5 palaces. We created some kind of architectural monster. And as you enter inside, you're walking through different interior of these palaces, but all connected in a collage. Just when you get outside of palaces, you're going towards the pavilion called the city. The basic information that you need to know is that city of Rijeka after the Second World War had to be renovated. What they decided is to give this task to one architect called Igor Emili, who actually did the reconstruction of the old part of Rijeka. Old part of Rijeka was centuries old, but the houses were just ready to be torn down. So what he did was a very specific combination of old housing projects with combination with modernistic architecture. This was a very bold intervention that Rijeka did. So we presented it through the exhibition on the outside walls of the pavilion. But as you enter inside the pavilion, you're actually entering a computer game that we created. We actually made a 3D model of Rijeka and computer game where you as audience can play this game. It's organized as a treasure quest. You're walking through Rijeka, you're answering questions about Rijeka, you're learning about Rijeka's history, streets, and moving throughout the city in a very, it's not just for children, of course, done because we have different layers in this computer game regarding on the interest of each audience. As this is the pavilion from the outside, and just across it is a pavilion called Leisure. It's a pavilion dedicated to architecture of tourism, focusing on contrast between Opatija and the islands around Rijeka. Rijeka was never a touristic city, but what was happening that you needed Rijeka to come to Rijeka with the train, but the whole tourism was developing around the ring of Rijeka. So on one side, you have Opatija, which was Austrian monarchy symbol for leisure and health tourism. And on the other side, after the Second World War, you have beautiful hotels being created in very modernistic approaches, such as Haludovo, which was the place for Bobo Guccione and Penthouse, Uvala Scott, which was another crazy hotel project that still exists and still being used. We wanted to show this difference in approach with this little house that was used to be placed on beaches for changing clothes, for changing your bathing suits. So the exhibition is actually in this, on the beach in this little house. All the way as you walk through the big exhibition, you will always see a timeline. You can feel free to enter at any point, at any year, at any time in this timeline, and go then outside back to some pavilion. The pavilion made of rocks is actually called the Common Ground. Common Ground is telling the story about how Rijeka, since geographically Rijeka is very narrow, how Rijeka needed to build new places. And what she did was dig out places and put what she dug out on other places. Those new places that were being created, there were places for sports. So such as Prelog, Kantrida, where you have the swimming pool and the football field. They were always creating huge, large spaces for some type of sport and community activities. This is the inside of the pavilion. The model presents Rijeka, and all around there are these archive photos proving the different uses of these spaces. Opposite to Common Ground is a pavilion dedicated to monuments. Lucas Kansi was our chief collaborator in this project. We actually took his research as the base for more research. Each pavilion, either on Rijeka or around Rijeka, is presented with a model, with a text and with drawings and some archive photos. What we wanted to emphasize here in this exhibition is the space and the relationship between the space and the monument itself. We're not focused on the political and historical descriptions of this monument. We are focusing on their aesthetic categories and the space, how they combine and how they influence on one another. Across is the last pavilion. It's called Fantastic Zones. And this pavilion is actually created as a movie set. So as you enter in our little set, you're actually entering the potential futures of Rijeka that we drew and created as an application. So we are playing with this movie set moment. But behind the pavilion, you actually have the history of our disease. Let's say it like that. It's the frustration and fascination with Fiume Fantastika. So all these elements are actually our office, and this is the really backstage of the whole project that we did. Timeline is looking like this. One side is with the one side of these flags is dedicated to archive material and text descriptions, and the other side are actually glitched flags of Rijeka or any country or kingdom, whatever was Rijeka in at that certain point. These are just some photos of overall project with people present inside. And now we are going to have our little walkthrough. Renato is going to jump in and start.
Yeah. Okay, just a second. Yeah. Hopefully you can hear me now. And so basically now we will simulate at least how good we can simulate sort of the experience of going through the exhibition. So this is sort of the entry area, and Morana will take you on the walk tour.
So now we are in the pavilion dedicated to boats and trains, to port and railway. As I said, we are going to walk beach pavilion, wherever. And as we get behind the pavilion, we are entering our first touch with the tunnel. On our right is the pavilion, but we will enter now with the pavilion dedicated to board. The border here in the pavilion actually really present in the same architecture of the pavilion.
Renato, I'm not sure if you hear me, but if you could slow down a bit and be close to Morana talking, because we just hear bits of what Morana is saying. Yeah. So you need to follow her on the shoulder.
Yeah,
thank you.
Got it.
So now we are walking behind the pavilion borders, going towards the networks. The networks are actually made of a container, since one of the themes is actually the container transport that is very, very important to development on Rijeka. So on one side, you have different archive materials proving different approaches of things that were traveling through Rijeka. And on the other side, you have the map of the city with a specific legend that, if you decide to follow each line, can actually take you to all the parts of the world where each these things, matters was traveling, such as oil, sugar, Tito's boat Galeb, and architecture development in the countries of non-aligned movement. Just across, we are entering the pavilion cinema. So now we are in the pavilion palace. We are in this continuous interior combined on these different 5 palaces. In the tablets that you're seeing on the wall, we actually did a GIF that will prove the different developments of each house. These different transgressions, how the house changed from a theater to a political dome or space for contemporary art. So welcome to the pavilion leisure, where we are actually standing on the beach. Ivo Robic is playing in the background. He's a famous Croatian singer of chansons that was specific for the great terraces of hotels in Opatija. So one side is specifically dedicated to architecture of tourism in Opatija, which is this type of health tourism, very relaxing tourism. And on the other side of this little house is the architecture of hedonistic tourism that was mostly happening after the Second World War in the islands and in the space, islands around Rijeka in the county. So, for example, Haludovo, which was a space for penthouse parties. Pavilion City is just across. Welcome to the interior of our computer game. As you see, these are different layers of the computer game that we created. Computers are hidden, so the audience can choose whether you want to play the game or you want to see somebody playing and see how he's moving through Rijeka and what he's doing in answering all these questions about history of Rijeka. Common ground. So Common Ground Pavilion is dedicated to these spaces of new collective socializing through sport or recreation. Rijeka has them really a lot. And what is specific in this room, this pavilion, is also one photo that we will show in a more better view. To understand how Rijeka is actually interesting and a bit weird and fantastic, is this. I showed you the position of Export Drvo right across the National Theatre. So look at this. This is the center of Rijeka that is a space for drying wood. Here is the National Theatre, here's the residential area. Rijeka wasn't a city, it was first just a port, and then the city was created later on. On one side is the pavilion monuments, and on the other side is the pavilion fantastic zone. We will just have a little look in the pavilion monuments and then go take it to the back to see the backstage of the project. So all the information about the monuments are either in these models, in text, in archive photos, and in photos taken just today. We wanted to show the different, the wide range of monuments that was being created in Rijeka and around Rijeka, but all those monuments are created in public space. We were interested in this relationship with space and the monument itself. We are starting with one from the 19th century and finishing with the most recent monument created in Croatian history, which is the Bridge of Defenders in Croatian War of Independence, created by architectural studio called Trial HD. Just to show, in this film set, we actually allow audience to play, to position themselves in different fantastic futures of Rijeka that we think may happen in 20, 30, 50, 100 years. But we are actually letting people play with this idea. And behind our movie set, we are entering the documentation of our research. And once again, the timeline, the historical layer that gives you more information about Rijeka and about the whole concept of the exhibition. And so here we are. Sorry, can I hear you? That would be it from us. I think we actually did it in 30 minutes as it was planned. You can hear me, right? Sorry?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, you were muted, I think. Okay. This is actually it from us. Do we have any questions? I was just looking now. Okay, I have seen. Okay. If we have any a minute or two, I will maybe answer a couple of these questions. Although I think as I was talking, I will answered some of them. As Julia Pagels asked, did we collaborate with museums? Of course, all our research was based on the material that we could find in museums in Rijeka, in Croatia, and even in some museums outside Croatia, which I must say a great thank you to all of these directors of museums and curators that were willing enough to collaborate with us. And a lot of archives also, I forgot to mention them. So regarding the audience, I would say started to contribute to the exhibition as soon as we opened. Because we did a setup, but some of the fine tuning was actually done with the audience, since what we decided to do is to do the tour guide for general public all the time. And every tour guide that we did through the exhibition was always done by somebody from the curatorial team. So it's Renato, it's me, or it's Edith, or it's Ida. We don't use students, art history students, to do that for us. We do that tour guiding. I think we did over 150 tour guides so far. That's like one per day, two actually per day. Because we wanted to communicate with audience, we wanted to see what their thoughts are. We're not doing a lecture here with the exhibition. We're actually doing a walk through this city that we created. And also the reason why we have a little plastic things on the beach is because the children wanted to build the houses. They wanted to create their own urbanism in that sense. So we brought it. It was just one layer. On the exhibition. And I will read one. This is how they spend most of the time. Okay, Annelies van der Ven, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, asked whether do we have any audience research in how people move through the spaces where they spend most of the time. Actually, we do. We have, this is one of the things that we asked our students that are guarding the exhibition. We have one document creating with them just for research, so we can do statistics afterwards. And I must say that what so far we concluded is that there is a very interesting age difference. So people from 40 to 60 spend their more time on timeline, while a younger audience actually plays more with this pavilion part of the exhibition, and younger audience is more it's easier for them to ask direct questions. What we like really is that when we start talking, when we start guiding this walkthrough, we always tell our audience that there are no stupid questions. Feel free to ask anything. This is a dialogue, not a monologue. And we actually managed to do that people in the first pavilion just start asking questions. This is something that in a Dutch system would be normal. In Croatian system is not. The Croatian people never ask questions, trust me. But I think that we managed to create some type of dialogue.
There's another question about the economical support, or I guess would be the maybe the price, the final tag price of the whole thing. So obviously it was one of the bigger projects, at least bigger exhibition projects. So we had access to some 350,000 euros, which covered basically 2 years of work. So it wasn't just the setup of the exhibition, it was a lot of buying photographs, paying researchers to go to Vienna, to Budapest, to various places, getting, access to various knowledge from abroad. So we had a lot of people from other countries coming here, working with us on workshops, and basically this whole, so 2 years research plus the whole production of the exhibition plus the whole, at least one part of the marketing aspect. So the whole team working here while the exhibition is open, of course, all the cost of the multimedia equipment. So everything is kind of accounted in this, I guess, 350,000 euros price. But the good thing about the exhibition is that it doesn't have to be removed. It's not a museum, so it doesn't really have, there are no current plans and into something that will replace this. So it can easily become open, next year or a year after that, or it can be upgraded, or it can be removed, So
reuse for any other exhibition, because what we did when we started to plan the exhibition setup is our main question was, can we use these pavilions later for something else? And the answer is actually yes, because if you tear down these walls made of plaster, and if you take down our prints, you actually get a construction that can be reused for any other type of exhibition. Maybe there should be 10 exhibitions of different artists here in this space. This space is, the Export Drvo building is actually, think of it as a street with a roof. This was an old warehouse that was used for drying wood. It has nothing to do, it's just like a street with a roof. What we actually wanted to do is this type of arsenale moment, when you're walking, like in Venice, you're walking through pavilions, because we wanted to show this north-south orientation as a building and put in this fantastic Fiume Fantastika Rijeka inside. Fiume is actually Rijeka, the title of the city.
And just to finish, there is a small follow-up question going about whether, who financed the whole thing, whether it had, support, I guess, from the private sector or from people. So it was mostly publicly funded. We had access to some sponsorship deals which covered, materials or work done on the production sense, but it was mostly financed by by the public. That means the city, the regional government, the Ministry of Culture, and obviously the European Union covering the whole Rijeka 2020 project. I think this is our time.
Yes,
so
yeah. Julia gave us the cue. We were too long. Sorry, and I hope that we didn't bug you too much with our story. There's a lot to tell. 30 minutes is really...
yeah.
And that's it. So hello from Rijeka, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morana and Renato. This was really a great tour, especially for the people who haven't been to a museum in quite a long time, because most of the museums are closed in Europe. So this was especially nice to see. And again, a good argument to come to Rijeka at some point. Just before we leave you to a long lunch break, I would like to say that at 2 p.m. we are meeting again with the webinar, How Do I Make My Museum More Sustainable? Please be on time, because we will be starting on time at 2 p.m. The webinar will be facilitated by Kathleen Southwick from Key Culture. If you would like to join and you haven't registered, please find the link to this webinar in the chat. And last but not least, tomorrow morning, we will resume at 10 a.m. for our dedicated session on the coronavirus and museums. This session is unfortunately, or fortunately, fully booked already, but I would like to take this moment to encourage all of you to really respond to our follow-up survey on the coronavirus impact on museums. The link is also in the chat, and I would just like to say that the more feedback we have from the more people responding, the better arguments we can build for museums, for their economic support, for keeping them open, for transforming their digital capacity. So please go ahead and respond to them. So this is where I end. We'll see each other today at a bit later at 2 p.m. Thank you very much.